Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking what is usually a super confusing, jargon-filled drain camera report and turning it into a clear, empowering diagnosis of your property's pipe health. Look, if you've ever been handed a massive stack of paperwork by a technician, the ones filled with scary-sounding defect codes and a massive estimate that makes your heart completely skip a beat, you know exactly how overwhelming it can be. But here's the secret. You do not need a plumbing license to understand what's happening underground. You just need the right decoder ring. So let's dive right in and take back control.
All right, let's look at the agenda for cracking this code. We'll be moving quickly through decoding the basics, pipe health grading systems, common pipe defect codes, condition versus performance, connecting codes to repairs, and finally, red flags to watch.
Starting off with Section 1, Decoding the Basics, finding the where and how.
Okay, so before we even think about diving into the scary defect codes, we absolutely have to lock down these basic data points. You want to verify exactly where the camera entered, the pipe size and material, and, this is crucial, the distance measurements or video timestamps. Why does this matter so much? Well, missing location data can literally lead to a plumber misscoping the whole project. Imagine someone bringing in a massive excavator to tear up your prized rosebush, only to find out they're digging up the completely wrong segment of pipe. Yeah, no thanks. Always verify the where before analyzing the what.
Moving right along to Section 2, Pipe Health Grading Systems, or basically making sense of the score. You might be staring at your inspection paperwork right now, kind of scratching your head asking yourself, what exactly does a CCTV grade or condition score even mean? I know, it sounds like some kind of high-level security clearance, right? But the concept is actually super straightforward. Simply put, a CCTV grade is just a scoring system that summarizes your pipe's health. Lower scores generally point to minor, everyday wear and tear. Nothing to lose sleep over. But higher scores, or severe coded results, well, those highlight significant damage that requires some actual intervention. Think of it as a quick, at-a-glance health check. It immediately tells you whether a weird quirk is just a symptom you need to monitor or a severe structural problem needing emergency surgery.
Next up is Section 3, Common Pipe Defect Codes. Think of this as your personal translation dictionary.
All right, this is where you gain the superpower to actually speak the contractor's language. Let's translate a few of the major ones you'll see. So roots or intrusion just means vegetation is squeezing through the joints and tightening up the flow. Then you've got cracks, splits, or collapse. These all point to serious structural failures. And a collapse, that is an absolute high-priority emergency. No way around it. You also might see deposition. It sounds fancy, but it's really just scale, grease, or silt buildup restricting things. And corrosion, of course, threatens the watertight seal of your pipe. Knowing these terms connects your pipe's exact symptoms directly to their root cause.
Which brings us to Section 4, Condition versus Performance, also known as Form versus Function.
Now, understanding the codes is really only half the battle. We also need to separate the structural condition of a pipe from its real-world performance. Think of it kind of like a car, right? A pipe can look structurally damaged, maybe it has some surface pitting or a small crack, but it can still flow perfectly fine. Just like a car with a dented door can still drive down the highway without an issue. On the flip side, a pipe can look totally structurally sound but suffer from severe flow restrictions just because it's choked with heavy grease. So you absolutely have to evaluate both the form and the function.
So if you're experiencing recurring clogs, slow drains, or those nasty odors, stop and scan your report immediately for these specific operational terms. Look for flow restriction, partial blockage, standing water, or backflow. These notes are absolute gold. They diagnose the real-world impact of the defects, and really, they bridge the gap between a blurry picture on a screen and the actual puddle forming in your basement.
Moving right into Section 5, Connecting Codes to Repairs, Evaluating the Prescription. With our diagnosis officially decoded, we have to make sure the scope of the fix actually matches the scope of the issue. A discrete, localized defect, say just a single cracked joint, usually just needs a localized Band-Aid. Think a spot patch or replacing one short segment. But if the report shows widespread, long-run issues, well, that points toward a comprehensive repair, like full pipe relining. You just want to make sure you don't let a localized problem get treated with a property-wide, heavily overpriced prescription.
Let's look at how this actually plays out in reality. If the code says roots, the fix might be immediate root cutting plus a long-term preventative lining so they don't come back. If it's heavy grease deposits, a high-pressure hydrojet cleans the immediate symptom, but you still have to ask why it's building up in the first place. And above all else, this is super important, never hesitate to ask for a written explanation if a contractor recommends a massive, property-wide repair for what your new decoder ring tells you is just a minor low-grade defect.
Finally, we hit Section 6, Red Flags to Watch. These are your defensive tactics to protect yourself.
Watch out for these crucial red flags in your paperwork. They are a dead giveaway for poor reporting or potentially scummy quote. First, unclear location data. I mean, if there are no timestamps or distance markers, how will they even know where to dig? Then, if there's no defect legend, how can you verify what their codes even mean? Also, be incredibly wary of missing extent data or really vague recommendations that just say something like needs repair, without detailing exactly why. And lastly, if the camera couldn't even reach the problem area, honestly, any quote based on that limited footage is just a wild, expensive guess.
And that brings us to the core takeaway of this entire explainer. Understanding a drain camera report is about translating codes into a real-world diagnosis. You are no longer just reading random abbreviations and blindly trusting an invoice. You are taking control, you're gathering hard data, and you're diagnosing the literal health of your property. So, the next time you're handed a dense, intimidating camera inspection report, use these tools. Ask the right questions, demand clarity on those defect codes, and absolutely insist on that location data. Now that you've got the decoder ring, are you going to let a confusing piece of paper dictate your bank account? Or are you ready to take control of what's happening right beneath your feet?